2026 is here, or it's a day away. And what is in sight for you?
Oh man, this is going to be a fun episode. If you hang out with us, we're going to give you the framework which we use to help scale businesses. Now, scaling can mean a lot of things for a lot of different people, but thinking bigger, thinking 3x, 5x, 10x bigger. I love that kind of big thinking, and the framework that is going to show you exactly how to do that. What are you laughing at? He's pushing buttons over there. He's like, what's going on?
Zach, you're on.
You know what? This is the best part because it's authentic. It's not super polished. We're not videographers. You know what we are? We're entrepreneurs that have built businesses, and we love helping other people build businesses. I want to tell you a story, Michael. Let's imagine that you and I are on an epic road journey. We are headed to where are we going? And we're in Jeeps. You got a Jeep, I got a Jeep. Where are we going?
We are headed to go see the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
The wonderful Wizard of Oz. And if he lives in an actual city, where would that city be in the United States?
In the United States, man, I would go to the liberal city of Los Angeles.
The liberal city of Los Angeles. I love it. So we're headed to the liberal city of Los Angeles. Now, if we don't know where we're at, how are we going to get there?
That is a great question. We would be lost. It's funny that you mentioned that because I think about in today's day and age, right? And I have this conversation with my kids all the time. It's like, when I used to drive, we would have to print out MapQuest, right? We would have to get every turn we would go. And if we missed a place, where do we go to get directions? So I will tell you, like, as my son was starting to drive, at 16, 17, I picked him up from work. I put him in the car. I said, you have to get home, but this is the scenario. Your phone is dead. Like, you cannot use your phone. Like, you can use other resources, but your phone is broken, died, you lost it. How do you get home? And we were about 20 minutes later in the middle of the ghetto. And my wife said she was so angry because I told her, I said, listen, you cannot help him. Yes, I figured this out because one day we are not going to be there for him. And he has to learn how to navigate, use your resources. How do you get home? Where do you live? West, east, north? Like, how are you going to figure that out? And she said, she told me when we got home, she goes, I was so angry sitting in the back, all quiet, that I was getting ready to get out of the car and call an Uber.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You're right. In today's day and age, if we were going on that epic Jeep Bernie, or like even with your son, what's the cheat? What's the easiest thing we can use to know exactly where we are and where we're going?
I mean, for us, like, it's the GPS on our phone.
It's the GPS. It has spoiled us. Absolutely, utterly spoiled us. When I first started selling real estate, I had to do the same thing you're talking about. Print off all the map directions. All the OG real estate agents, they had the whole city memorized in their head, and they know how to go to all these different points. I didn't have it memorized, so I used MapQuest. I printed paper after paper after paper before the GPS came out. But when the GPS came out, it changed everything. It reminds me of a story. Like when you know where you are, then and where you're going, you know the directions, right? There's a quick story in Alice in Wonderland when she goes into Wonderland and she's lost, right? And that creepy Cheshire cat shows up with the smile. Like, the thing freaked me out all the time. But she asked the cat, like, which way should I go? And the cat says, well, it depends. Where do you want to go? And she's like, I don't know. And then he says, it doesn't matter. And that's the whole point that we're making here. The GPS is for when business owners decide to be business owners. And they're not just doing the thing that they do. They're not just doing home improvement. They're not just doing plumbing. They're not just selling houses. They're whatever. There's two jobs that you wear, or I should say two pairs of pants that you wear, two things that you own in this business. The thing that you do, and then like the working on the business part. This is a critical part. And so, we have a couple days before the new year, but it doesn't matter. Like, whenever you're watching this, it is critical to have a GPS. In our world, that GPS stands for goal, priorities, and strategy. So if you can imagine on a piece of paper, we have one big goal on the top. That goal is specific. That goal is measurable. That goal is simple. It's not a complicated, algorithm. It's very, very simple, and it's understandable. That maybe that's a better word I should say for it. So specific, measurable, simple. From that goal, we have 3 different priorities. And so one goal on top, 3 priorities: priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. And when we're looking at this, the priority 1 should be the most important thing. What's the most important thing that when I achieve it, I'm going to hit that goal? And then the way to look at priority 2 is like, I would say, when I've achieved priority 1, I've earned the right to go to priority 2. And then when I've achieved priority 2, I've earned the right to go to priority 3. And so when we sit down, I love big goals. I said that just a few minutes ago. Let's 10x this. Oh my gosh, let's go nuts. We're going to 10x our business in 5 years. Holy cow, that's awesome. What's that priority? If the goal is 10x in 5 years, what's that number 1 priority? What's the thing that we have to do? And then when you earn the right, you can go to number 2. Now, that's not to say, like we're in some sort of vacuum, that as I'm doing business, I only can work in priority 1. It means that is the focus, that it brings clarity. To be unclear is to be unkind. Clarity is power. This GPS, when we have it defined on a single sheet of paper, we can articulate that, especially if we have a team. So then we can then divvy it up. Like, you own this, Michael. We were just talking about this morning. I own priority 1, you own priority 2. And we know what our lane is. And so from those priorities, I'm going to tell you have about maybe 5 strategies below it. So again, goal on the top, priority number 1 might be, and for us, we want to make $100 million, right? So that's the goal. Priority number 1 is client acquisition. Well, client acquisition, like, how do we know if we've achieved that? That's not specific enough. We got to acquire 30 clients by the end of the year, or whatever that metric is for you. Now that's specific. It's understandable. What are the strategies? What are the things that we're going to do to achieve that? One of them might be like what we're doing right now is producing a podcast. You're attracting people to you. This is traffic that we earn. What are those different strategies that you're going to hold the line on so that you achieve priority 1?
I think that's great, because if, again, just like my son, right? If you don't know where you're going, how do you know if you got there, right? So as I think of, because you said like clarity, right? Like people who don't have clarity. And I'm sure there's been times like we've all been unclear about what we're trying to do and where we're trying to go and all that type of stuff. And the power of AI right now to help you get that clarity, right? So maybe you say, hey, look, you ask the question, hey, I'm trying to figure out my goals for 2026, my business goals. And I know the one thing I want to do is get an extra 30 clients, an extra 50 clients, an extra 5 clients, whatever that looks like, 2, whatever the number is. And then maybe you can ask it, like, what are the things that I need to prepare for? And it kind of gives you a list. And then you can start, ask me questions so that I can get clarity around that. Because I think, I hear, I watch these TikTok things and I hear about how, now AI is becoming your like psychologist or like your consultant. Yeah. And it is pulling a lot of resources off the internet. I mean, I would take it with a grain of salt sometimes, just make sure, because they'll always try to give you an answer. But I think as you're talking about getting these goals, getting specific, I could see how if you're stuck, how do I get unstuck? And I think that's part of like using the AI.
It's a useful, absolutely useful tool. I will say the new iteration of ChatGPT, and I think they're going to change this soon. It's a yes man or yes woman, depending on what voice you have programmed into it, where it's looking to appease you. And so whatever, if you're slanted a certain way, it's going to try to go down that slant. And so you got to be careful when you're using it. That being said, holy cow, is it powerful? If you wanted a certain strategy on maybe it's like direct mail, it will come up with some really solid ideas, and it is a powerful tool. I want to step back though. The goal, again, getting clarity on that goal. Michael, you just said this, like listing out all the different options that we have and then putting them in the right priority. Like if our big goal is the 50 clients, whatever, like you said on there, what are the different things? And this should take you some time. You should really clear out your schedule and be intentional about this. Like, what are the different things we could do to acquire these 50 clients? And then look at those. Like, what are the things that give you energy? Some of them will suck your energy away. I'm thinking like when I was back in the day when I was selling houses, I didn't mind cold calling, but it also did suck the energy. Like, you get yelled at enough times, like it kind of sucks. Versus like, I'm gonna go to my friend's house, I'm gonna bring a 6-pack of beer and say, hey, I'm just glad that you're my friend, Michael. And if you have any referrals, I'm never too busy for them. And then take off and go do it again. Like that gives you energy. Like, oh, that's cool. You showed up with a 6-pack of beer. How cool is that? So the purpose of our goal here brings intentionality. The purpose of our goal is to teach you how to be appropriate in the moment, if that makes sense. And this is where there's so many business owners that are like, I don't do goals. We just try really hard. And there's some wisdom to that. But I'll tell you, having coached hundreds of businesses at this point, the people that do bring that intentionality, that bring that goal there, it does teach them how to be appropriate in the moment. And it helps bring a unity to their teams that if they didn't have it, wouldn't be there, because that also allows, subordinate members on the team to push back to say like, hey, Zach, you said, here's our goal right here. Now you want to go over here because you found this shiny object. We came up with this system right here. We got to focus on this, unless you're telling me we're blowing it all up and we're going this direction, but that's not what the plan says.
I think that's good. And one thing that I've learned that I took away that is always like, in the back of my mind, two things. I had a mentor who's like a CIO, and he's taught me so much. And one of the things he said, don't mistake, what did he say? Don't mistake being busy for being productive. Like, oh, that's so good. That's so good. And then I would call him a mentor too, Steve Larson, right? Steve Larson said he makes a list of even just for the day, right? He makes a list of things for the day and he prioritizes them with 2 pens. And he says, I take a green pen and I put a dot next to the things that I think are money making ideas, right? So this is going to make me money. This is going to make me money. This is going to make me money. Bring revenue in the business. Then he takes a red pen and all the things that is not a money generating, task. He puts a red dot, and then he either puts that to the side or he gives that to someone else. So I think as you create this goal and as you have these specific things that you're going after, make sure that you're not just being, you're being productive and not just busy, right? But then also focusing on the piece that's, is this money generating or is this not?
Yeah, to your point, busyness is laziness. Well, I'm busy. I can't do this thing. Well, you're not intentional with your time. When we take the time, when you put things in right order, which is something that we're going to go over next week. So today, or we talked about the GPS this week. We're going to talk about another tool that I was given from a billionaire acquaintance of mine. Not a good friend. I wish I was a good friend, but just an acquaintance. Gary Keller. And Gary Keller uses that GPS. He uses that 411 to build these empires that he has. And those are the same tools that I've taken to build my businesses. And it brings an immense amount of clarity. But, to your point, it is super easy as an entrepreneur to get busy. And if we're not doing the right things, it's like I was cleaning my office today. That's a good thing to do. Is that an income producing activity? No. But it makes you feel accomplished. It gives you that little dopamine hit because now your office is clean and there's nothing wrong with that. However, it's not moving the needle forward. Did I do the most important thing that I should have today? Did I start with prospecting? If the answer is no, I shouldn't be cleaning. I should focus on the most important thing. And I like what you're saying of what Steve Larson said. What I'll do with clients is we'll go into their calendar, and typically they'll use the Google Calendar. We'll color code their activities. And we want to be, again, intentional with their time. And so we have a prospecting time that gets highlighted green. Why? It's a money-making activity. So we look at that. First of all, like if I have a conversation with a business owner, I'm going to bring the conversation around to what's your goal? What are you looking to achieve this year? Like dream with me. Like what does that look like? And then we'll talk about that. And if they're serious about it, I'll say, show me your schedule, because your schedule will show me exactly where you're going to be as long as you're following your schedule. It's not about fixing up houses. It's not about HVAC. It's not about real estate. It's not about any of this stuff. It's about following a schedule. If you're following that schedule and the schedule matches your goals, you're going to win. And if I look at that schedule and I see there's no money-making activities in here, I know you're not going to hit your goal.
Yeah, I like that. I think that as we do things, as I look at my calendar, because I write down all the things I need to do today and I do this and I'm like, all right. and I highlight things in red. Now, for me, red means like you have to do that right now, right? Like there's something you have to figure out right now, and that's what I put in red. But maybe I should use green because it's
Oh,
a money
use your own
making
color. That's
activity.
totally
Yeah,
fine. And like that intentionality, though, those red activities. If I do one thing today, if I do one thing that it's going to be this thing in red, and maybe I don't want to do it, or maybe you do want to do it, but it doesn't matter. I'm not, you know what? I'm not going to bed until this thing's achieved. And once I've achieved that, then you earn the right to do number 2 or number 3 or number 4. But like, this is the thing. This is it's the thing that I'm going to focus on and I'm going to win at. And I started the day with intentionality. I built that list, but then I said, this one needs to be red.
I love it. I love it. So going into 2026, like, what are some of your goals? Let's get a little personal here. What are you thinking? And it doesn't have to be business, right? Like, it could be whatever you think. Because I think that's important too. Because I think as entrepreneurs, we get so stuck on the thought process of like, oh, I gotta make money, but then we kind of lose other things. You know, we lose touch with our families, or like it always feels like something is, and it could be vice versa, right? Like maybe you're spending too much time in this area of like relationships, and then like there's no money, and then you're like, that stress comes up. So, have you thought about going into 2026? Because we're like a few days away from that. What your goals are, what you're thinking?
The business goals are always easier to, I don't know. It's business. Like Michael and I we're the same way. Like business is my sports. Like I know people will ruminate for hours and hours about whatever sports team did the sports ball and whatever. I'm like, I just, yeah, I kind of like the Detroit Lions, but whatever. I don't care. But
Yeah.
when it comes to business, like, oh my gosh, this is the thing that lights me up. God made me an entrepreneur. And so it is easy. Obviously with Crux Local, we're looking to bring more clients in here. One of the biggest tenets that both Michael and I share is that it's critical that we give more value than we take. And so we are absolutely looking to bring more clients in. And one of the things that we would do in the beginning is build out a GPS for you and help you bring clarity to your business. I have multiple businesses. We're looking at acquiring a few more businesses, my wife and I, because I'm blessed to have a wife that is very into business as well. And like we go out to eat and we talk about it, and it's just so much fun. And we have a boatload of children too, and so like some of them are into it, some of them are not. That's totally fine. I was hoping all of them would be entrepreneurs, but being an entrepreneur, it's a challenging lifestyle, and that's totally fine. That some of them don't want to do that. So like, what are my goals? This year. Stay faithful to God, love on my wife, love on my children, and live a big life, man. And I think, that's part of like what we're talking about. If we order our relationship with God right, we have a client right now that we're talking about this. I think everything else flows out from that. And so, it's about it's about playing big.
I like it. I like it. I think for me, if we're getting a little bit specific, I would love to bring on 2 more clients every week, to help serve them. I would love to serve them on that level. I want to get deeper into my prayer life, so I want to get back into that because I felt like I was doing that. I was doing it strong. And then, for some reason, like I fell back from it. And I felt myself at night again being like, oh, why am I back into it? Why did I let that get away from me? I want to tithe more. I felt like I've been over the past few months, I've been tithing more, which I feel like I'm getting blessed. I'm able to bless people as well. And then of course, I want to figure out I want to have a better relationship with my sons. So I feel like that piece, for some reason this year, that piece is like broken up, and I'm hoping that, I can get a better relationship with my sons specifically. So
I love it.
yeah,
I
that's
love
where
it.
we're at.
That's awesome.
But all right, so tell us about where Zach. If they like what they're hearing, they're like, "Hey, I wanna reach a goal. I wanna set the goals. Can these guys help me, set up a goal?" Where do they go for that? What does
Crux
that look
Local,
like?
for those that are widescreen, I think you can see it on the bottom. If it's in the vertical format, you can see a little bit of it. Go to
Oh man, we gotta fix
cruxlocal.com.
that.
Like find us on Crux Local, CRUX local.com. When you call, you talk to one of us, right? We have people, we have a team behind the scenes, but this is something that we're truly passionate about. We want to see if it's a good fit. There's plenty of people that will help for free 90 free, because they're not in the place to be able to afford us there. And we can give you some really good wisdom. And I really, truly enjoy doing that. Is it a money making activity? Maybe. If you take the advice and you apply it, you will grow for sure. But it's funny, a lot of people will even get good advice and they won't necessarily apply it. And so the principles that we're giving you here, they're hard learned. I've gone through a lot of failures, which really truly aren't failures. They're learning experiences, and a lot of successes. And so I'd love for you guys to go to Crux Local. There's a lot of things that we can do, a lot of free tools that we can bring a lot of clarity to your business with.
Absolutely. So visit us, schedule an appointment, and we look forward to serving you soon.
Yeah. Happy New Year, everyone.